everybody. Welcome live to the Jim Master Show, live entertainment lifestyle, celebrity talk show series. Good to have you with us today. Our next guest coming up, we're very excited about, is Dan Ramm. He is a prolific television writer, producer, author, Emmy nominated as well. And he has penned this fantastic, exciting novel, Long Branch. We're going to talk about that in just a second as we get ready to welcome him live to JMS. Hope you guys are doing well wherever you're watching around the world. We are here in the New York area in the United States, reporting for duty in the host chair. Our very special guest, Dan, some folks also know him affectionately as Danny. He has written on some amazing projects, written and produced amazing projects. One of them you know very, very well on CBS. He's worked on Criminal Minds, and he's worked with the incomparable actor, Joe Mantegna. Matter of fact, I've got several friends who know Joe personally, and they all say he's a fantastic guy, salt of the earth guy. He's also, of course, a brilliant actor. That series running for such a long time on CBS. Well, there's a really cool story that our guest, Dan, is going to share with us. And the story, I don't want to give it all away because I want him to tell it, is where his chance meeting with actor Joe Mantegna really changed his life in such an incredible way. And it's at the point where they're actually partners, business partners. It's a production company that Joe has had, and these guys work together, and it's really absolutely amazing how that happened. But he's been in it for a long time, Dan, as Joe has as well. And a brilliant writer. He's written a number of episodes of Criminal Minds on CBS. But they've become dear friends, business partners, Dan and Joe Mantegna. And the stories that they can tell of all the people they've worked with and all the people they've had an opportunity to shoot with, on location and in studio is extraordinary. And again, it's one of those things where this chance meeting happened and the rest became history. Now, our very special guest is an author as well, as I mentioned, of this fantastic novel, which we're going to show you right here. There it is, Long Branch. It really is cool stuff, folks. And Dan's been doing this. He's had a love for media and for broadcast and for television and for writing for a long, long time. Emmy-nominated producer, award-winning television writer and producer, dozens of credits, multiple awards, including 4 Telly Awards, winner of Best Doc at the LA Film Festival 2023, Impact Doc Award winner 2023 for Women in Aviation. He's a producer of the Emmy Winning documentary Palm Springs Air Museum's 25th Silver Anniversary Celebration. He's also received multiple Inner Network Awards as well. And again, this is something that has been running through his veins for a very, very long time. He comes originally from Kansas City, Missouri, and in his adult life, he became a producer, writer, well known for Midway USA's Gun Stories, Memories Are Made of This, Shooting Galleries. Also co-produced the 2013 documentary film Live Forever, a Ray Bradbury Odyssey, which was produced by Joe Mantegna's incredible production company. And Dan and Joe are business partners. He's also, again, as I mentioned, written for the television series and CBS Criminal Minds, and so much more. We're very excited to have him here and to share the book as well, because the book is definitely a page turner and it's relatively hot off the presses too. So it's going to be a great conversation. See lots of calls. Yeah, that's like when I'm on the air on the radio and television. Lots of calls coming in. I see lots of comments coming in. I know it's been a busy day. I've been in radio and television all day. So lots of calls coming in is usually the verbiage, but lots of comments coming in, which are just as good as calls. You're like our studio audience watching around the world, and I see comments coming in the chat room, which is really, really nice. Without further ado, a fine gentleman who is a skilled craftsman in the world of writing and television and producing and so much more. Dan is here. Dan, welcome to the show, my friend. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, Jim. Pleasure to be here.
When we get a chance to do work that we love, it really is a blessing. And you kind of knew early on, I guess, in your trajectory of life, what you kind of wanted to do. When did the writing start for you?
Well, first I got to say I love your "I Dream a Genie" bottle because I have one too. I have
You see it right there, right?
and I saw it in your intro.
In the open,
I
yeah.
have her bad cousin. I can't remember her name.
Oh,
A
what was
black.
yeah.
It was the black genie bottle.
You're right.
Uh,
And she had the dark hair
yeah, yeah,
too.
yeah. So anyway, I have that. Um,
That's cool. I have a
so,
Gilligan's Island, well, a Bob Denver bobblehead doll of
mhm,
Gilligan that Dreama Denver had sent me. She's been a guest 3 or 4 times. She's become a dear friend. And she had looked at the set because the set has changed periodically.
yeah.
And she said, "You're missing something from the set." And I said, "What are we missing?" She said, "You're missing Gilligan." So she sent the
Yep.
bobblehead Gilligan, who's back there somewhere. And then
Yep.
Don Fullilove from the Back to the Future movies.
Uh-huh.
He was a guest about a year or so ago, and he said, "Hey, I see the genie bottle. I see the Gilligan. You need a Goldie Wilson. You need Mayor Goldie Wilson. You need me from Back to the Future." So a box arrives. We open it up, and it's a little bobblehead of Don Fullilove. You've got quite a nice little shiny collection behind you. Tell us
Oh
what
yeah.
we see behind you on your bureau.
Well, I mean, we've over the years we've just been lucky enough to have won a few awards for different things. I created a show with another person named Tim Kremen called Hollywood Weapons that is sort of like a MythBusters style show where we would take a scene from a TV show or movie where a weaponry is used in some way that seems unbelievable, and then we would just test it in the real world with the real weapon or the real uh, whether it be firearm or explosive, whatever, see what the result was. So we did that for 6 seasons, and a lot of those Telly Awards are from that. The Emmy is from our 25th anniversary program that we did for the Palm Springs Air Museum that we were very proud of. But my career, we never know where life is going to take us. You start out on one path and you think that this is it, and then all of a sudden a door opens and you walk through it, and now it's a new path. And that's really kind of what happened to me. I was in the construction business for many years, decades almost, um, and I'd gotten a call from Joe's wife Arlene to come look at some problem on their house. I didn't realize whose house it was until I got there. Now, this is like 1999, maybe somewhere in there. Joe had just completed the film The Rat Pack that he did for HBO. And that was one of my favorite films. I was already a fan of his from Searching for Bobby Fischer and Godfather 3. And he had done Alice, Woody Allen film, and Celebrity, all these great movies. But I was such a fan and still am of Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr.
Mm,
that when I realized it was his house, I kind of fanboyed.
yeah.
He wasn't there, but when I went back, he was there, and I started talking about Dean Martin.
Mm,
And I think maybe he was sort of taken by somebody at the time. I was in my early to mid 30s, somebody that age being so excited by that music and those guys and connecting with it. And so I think that was our first sort of bonding moment, was that connection in music. Um, Over the next 2, 3 years, Joe owned at the time he owned a few rental properties, and so whenever he needed some work, he would call me, and we sort of forged a bit of a friendship over the next year or two, to the point where sometimes we'd play golf together, or he played in a lot of celebrity golf tournaments, and he'd call me and say, "Hey, you want to caddy for me? Come on, we'll have some fun." So I did that with him for a few times, but I was never truly happy in doing what I was doing. I did it. Sometimes we do things because we got to make money, so we do what we got to do. But I wasn't really happy doing it. So I had decided previous to all that, at some point I wanted to sell my company. I had about 35 employees. We did pretty good business, and I had a partner in that business. So I decided to sell, and one of the provisos in the contract was I had to stay for 1 year after the sale to help the transition you know, get my responsibilities off onto somebody else. About a month before, now Joe knew I was selling my company. He kind of was aware of all that stuff, but he really didn't talk to me. We didn't talk about it like in depth at all. But about a month before that contract was up, he said, "Isn't your sort of deal up next month?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "What are you going to do when that month is up?" I said, "I don't know, but I know I don't want to do this." And he said, "Well, I just got an opportunity to do a series for CBS about the Supreme Court. It's called First Monday." It was him, James Garner,
Mm,
Charles Durning, really wonderful
what a
cast.
great lineup, huh?
And he said, I'm going to start a production company, and maybe you want to come work for me." So it took about half a microsecond for me to say yes, because here was an opportunity. And I think Joe and I's paths sort of crossed at an opportune moment for both of us because, I was obviously looking for a change in my life, but come to find out, he was also looking for a change because up until that point in his career, he had primarily done film and Broadway theater. And he had the luxury of being able to take his two young daughters and his wife with him wherever he went because they were babies and toddlers and little kids. So we're going to Russia for a month. We're going to France for 2 months. Take the whole family and go. But when the kids got older and school became important, to them, taking him out of school for 2 or 3 months during a school year, it was tough. So and CBS had been after him for a long time to do a series. So he finally said, "Okay, I'll do one, and I can stay home, most of the year." So he was looking for a change. I was looking for a change. So it kind of, our little worlds collided, and it was a good thing. Interestingly enough, when we sort of hashed out all the details, that was September 10th of 2001. So the next day was 9/11, and so everything kind of stopped. We weren't even sure if the show would actually happen because we hadn't started production. But after a couple of weeks, it did get going, and as we all did, try to get our lives back on track. But I remember so clearly that first day of working for him that I almost quit. And I almost quit because I mean, again, like you said, I'm this kid from Kansas City, Missouri. Like, I've always worked in blue collar. I'm pretty handy. I can fix just about anything. But here I am now on a Hollywood movie lot. Sunset Gower Studios is where they filmed it. And I mean, there's sound stages and there's trailers and I see people wheeling props and wardrobes and all that stuff that you think of when you think of Hollywood. And it was a little surreal for me because I thought, wow, I was really out of my element, certainly out of my comfort zone. So I find his trailer and I go in and I said, "I'm here." I had a little notepad. I said, what do you need from me today?" I still wasn't 100% clear on exactly what I was going to do for him at the time. And he said, "Oh, I'm glad you're here." He goes, "I have a list of people." He had just directed a film called Lake Boat for David Mamet. I directed this film. I want to have a screening at the DGA, and I would love for you to call all these people and invite them to the screening. Okay, that's easy enough, I thought. Well, I get the list, and it's Andy Garcia, it's Billy Crystal, it's Sid Caesar, it's Ann Miller. I was like,
Sid Caesar and Miller. Oh my God.
I
It's
know,
like everybody.
and I was just kind of freaking out because like this is so out of my element to call, because mind you, this is not their agent or their manager or their secretary. This is their personal home phone number at the time. That was everybody had a home phone in those days. So there I am calling like, "Hello, is Mr. Billy Crystal home?" Like just scared to death. And partway through that list, I just thought, that's it. I quit. I can't. This is not me. I can't do this. I was a fool for even trying it.
When you called Billy Crystal, did you say, "You look marvelous"?
I was too nervous. But of course, all these people were very, very polite and very happy to hear from me because they wanted to go to the screening. And. So like I said, I thought this is it. I'm gonna have to tell Joe, like, I think I made a mistake. This is not me. But I decided, my father once when I was a kid told me, if you have a big task, it's like eating an elephant. You do it at one bite at a time. You just take it a little bit at a time. Don't think about how big the elephant is. Just think about that one bite you got to take first. So I decided that I would stay for a week. This was a Monday. I figured I would stay till Friday. At the end of Friday, I would have the weekend to really think about it and really make that decision. Well, by Friday, I was hooked. I found my stride. I found what I was good at for him, and did that. And
Did you feel like a kid in the candy store at all? Here you are amongst all these amazing people, the studios. I mean, you're
yeah,
making art, you're making television and all. And was it, I'm
well, I
sure
wasn't
it can be
making
nerve
anything.
wracking, right? It can be
I
nerve
wasn't
wracking
making.
because you're like, oh boy, this is the big time. But yet at the same time, I bet it was quite exciting too.
It was 100% exciting. I mean, I had done some work for celebrities in my company. I did a little work for Raquel Welch once. I did some work for Robert Stack and a few other people. So I had been around celebrities, and living in LA, you see one or bump into one uh, pretty easily. But I'm on this stage, and there's Jim Garner, Rockford,
Jim
right?
Rockford, Rocker
There
Files,
he
yeah.
is, and I'm
And all
just
those
like,
Polaroid commercials with Marion Hartley.
yeah. And before that, he was, in the Western. So like,
That's right.
and all those great movies he did. Like I was really starstruck by Jim Garner, and Charles Durning. Charles Durning, you know, I loved him in Tootsie. He was nominated for an Oscar in Tootsie. So I
Another
mean, I
great
had these
actor.
two incredible actors, not to mention Joe. It was pretty exciting. But after a while, maybe a month or so, you start to realize, you know what, everybody's here. We're doing a job. They're people. I'm people. There's no airs about them. They were very nice people, and you get on with it. You just do your job, and you get on with it. Um, Before I even knew Joe, I had read a book called, man, I can't think of that. I think it was My Life Black and White. It was Sammy Davis Jr.'s autobiography. Because of my admiration for these guys, I read this autobiography. I was so moved by this story of his personal story, and all the things that he went through. I thought this would make a great movie. Why hasn't somebody made this into a movie? So I went out and bought a book by Sid Field on how to write screenplays. I bought some software, and I sat down and I tried to convert this book into a screenplay. And I did, mostly because I wanted to see if I could do it. I like to push myself like that from time to time. Like, find something that I think it'd be cool to do, but have really no expertise in it, but just go for it, see what happens. What's the worst that can happen? You fail. So what? So I wrote this screenplay. Now, I never mentioned this to Joe until I'd been with him maybe 2 or 3 years. And I thought, I wonder what he would think of this. Other people, friends of mine read it and thought it was good. So let me see what he thinks. He's the professional. So I gave it to him, and I could see the look in his eye, like, oh boy, here we go. My contractor slash assistant now thinks that he's a screenwriter. But he came back to me in a couple of weeks and he said, this is really good. Like, I really like the script. And I was like, oh, well, thank you. And he said, is writing something that you want to do? And that question really struck me, because not only had no one ever asked me that question before, but I'd never even asked myself that question before. And it was a pivotal moment in my life where, and I just kind of looked at him and I said, I think so. I enjoy doing it. I think so. He said, great. Then that's what, let's work on that. And from that point on, Joe was my biggest fan and my biggest critic in terms of everything I wrote, because he knew that just telling me everything I did was good was not going to be helpful to me. So like, one of the first things he did is he took that script and he took it and read it again, and with a red pen made all these marks on it. Okay, this doesn't belong here. Get rid of this line. What if he said this instead? All those kinds of notes that you think like, wow, oh, that's great. A good education. The next thing he did is he had me read scripts that had been submitted to him. He'd hand me 5 or 6 scripts. Read these scripts and tell me if there's a good one. How do I know that there's a good one? If if you read it and you think that was a good story, then that's a good one. That's as simple as it is. But it was also another education, reading lots and lots of feature scripts that are 120 pages down to television scripts that are 50 to 60 pages, sitcom scripts that are 30 to 40 pages. You really get an education on what works, what doesn't work, what's funny, what's not funny. How, you see things and you're like, oh, this seems very overwritten. There's way too much. Yes, Bob. Why? I think you're a good guy, Bob. Like, why you keep saying the guy's name in the script? So I learned a lot about
that. Would work on the Bob Newhart show. Yes, Bob. God bless him.
Yes, I know. Good old Bob. I never met him, but he was such a fan. I had met Suzanne Plachette once.
You did?
Yeah. So over the course of the next however many years, 15, 20 years, I started writing, and I started writing things that on spec. I started writing for shows. I wrote a few episodes co-wrote some episodes of Criminal Minds. I wrote shows that I created, that I didn't create. And, it paid off. I guess I was on the right track with what I'm doing. And so then just coming up to speed at the end of the pandemic, like in 22, around in that time period, probably around the time you started your show, I had an opportunity. Joe and I had an opportunity to pitch a network 3 ideas for a scripted drama. So we pitched 3 ideas. Well, there was one that they liked, and they had us do like a synopsis and write up a little thing. Nothing ever happened with it, which is very common. But the story that I thought was the best out of the 3 was this story that I had that turned into this book, Long Branch. So I started playing around with it. I thought, I wonder if it could be a book. There's not a lot happening in Hollywood at that moment because production was still very limited. I don't think everybody kind of knew how to get back into the game with all the COVID protocols and all that kind of stuff then. So I just started working on this book a little bit every day, an hour after I was done with my other stuff, or a little bit on the weekends, whenever I had a chance. And it just came out, it just kept coming out of me in a way, and I didn't tell anybody I was doing it for 2 reasons. Number one, you don't want to, I told my wife, that was it, but you don't want to tell everybody like, hey, I'm writing a novel. And then you get to page 50 and you're like, I don't know what to write next. And then you got to tell everybody like, no, I'm not writing a novel. I decided, I don't want to do that. That was the first reason. The second reason, and I think most importantly, is you have to be careful who you share your hopes and dreams with, because not everybody's on your side, even though they may appear to be on your side, or you think they're on your side. Not everybody is necessarily on your side. And you just have to, I think, especially in the creative arts, I think you have to just keep it as tight as you can until you're ready for people to hear it, see it, or read it, and then let them decide once it's done.
One of my taglines is often imitated, never duplicated.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what ends up happening, right?
And everybody's got an opinion. Oh, no, you should, well, maybe try this, or why don't you do that? Or,
I had a friend who's a screenwriter. He has since passed. Brilliant person from New York, out east on Long Island, and dear friend. And he was a screenwriter, but also would create all these phenomenal inventions. I mean, he just really came up with so many incredible inventions, things that just came to mind. He was on the genius level. But the basement was filled with all of these 3/4 finished inventions. He never got to the very finish line with it. Same thing with the things he would start typing, these screenplays and different things. He'd wake up from sleep at 2:00 in the morning when his parents were sleeping and his sister, and the house was quiet, and just start typing away because he would get some late night ideas because the house was quiet. And he had a drawer filled with these brilliant screenplays, but would never submit them for fear of rejection or wanting them to be perfect, perfect in his mind as they could be before submitting them. And he would always kick himself because 2 years later in the movie theaters would be something very close to
Yeah.
what he thought of several years earlier.
Happens
It's
all the
amazing
time.
how that works.
All the time it happens. I think as a collective, they somebody once said there's no new ideas, and it's probably kind of true, but that's happened to me where I think of an idea for something and then I see it, I'm like, oh, okay, well, good try. But I think self-doubt is probably the worst thing about any kind of artistic endeavor because everything is very subjective, right? So you look at a painting and you think, "Oh my God, I'm so moved by this painting," and I look at it and go, "I don't get it." It's all very subjective. Movies, books, art, it's music, everything. So your friend, unfortunately, he's never going to make it perfect for him because it's never going to be perfect in his mind. Just anything I do, I think it's could be better. But you gotta at some point you gotta let it go.
Let it go.
But Joe told me once a long time ago, sort of in the beginning, he said one of the most important things because Hollywood is a very calloused business. Um, Rejections, man, they hand them out like free candy. It's a business where if you don't, he said, you have to believe in yourself. And if you don't believe in yourself, really believe in yourself, how do you expect anyone else to believe in you? And that made a lot of sense to me. I really took that to heart because I've written things that some people look at and be like, this is awesome. I would watch this movie. I would watch this TV show. This is great. I mean, I had a script that I worked on that Joe and I went around pitching for a sitcom that our agent at the time at ICM was so excited about. This is a out of the park home run sitcom. Set us up with pitch meetings, and everybody just said no. It was the weirdest thing, and even the agent was like, "I can't believe this. Like, what are you talking about?" So it's just a business, and you got to realize that everybody's looking for something to solve their problem, whether it's the right actor or actress, the right story, it's all about timing. So you just can't take it personally.
I tell you, that chance meeting really with Joe Mantegna did impact your life in such a long lasting way. You've become fast friends, your
Yeah,
business partners,
yeah,
which is amazing how that has happened, right? I mean, it's like he saw something in you. He saw maybe a tenacity, a work ethic, a creativity, a trust. He trusted you early on to
yeah,
where he sort of brought you in under his wing and gave you opportunities and sort of guided you in certain ways so you can master even further what you do, which I think
yeah,
is an incredible, rare thing. I would say that Dick Clark did that for Ryan Seacrest
yeah.
when he
I would
brought
agree.
him in. He saw Ryan doing these sort of wraparounds during the NBC Saturday Night Movie. He would
Mm,
do these on location movie set wraparounds. Tonight's movie on NBC, and then American Idol came, and Brian Dunkelman didn't want to continue, and it became Ryan. I think Dick Clark saw something in him, took him under his wing, brought him in, showed him the business side of everything, having a production company, Dick Clark Productions,
yeah.
and then, bringing him in with the New Year's Rockin' Eve and everything else. And I think that really helped him greatly. And it sounds like Joe saw something in you as well that, you know, sort of handpicked you in a way, which is a beautiful thing.
I guess so. I mean, I think there was a time in the beginning I asked them, I said, why did you pick me? Because I have no experience in this business. I don't know anything really about it, except I like watching movies. And I said, you must have people that are more qualified than me. And he said, no, no, no. And I'd been working as a contractor for him for a couple of years on various things. He said, you possess a skill in terms of being on time, getting things done, organizing, understanding how to deal with people, like all of those sort of people skills and all that kind of stuff is what he was looking for. I don't think he saw any talent in me because there was no talent to be seen, you know. But it wasn't until he read that first script that he thought, oh, okay, maybe this guy's got something going on, you know. And so he has been sort of a mentor. And I always have to thank his wife Arlene, because if she had not called my company out of all the companies she could have picked for me to come out and look at their problem at their house, I don't think I ever would have met him. It never would have happened. So I always, and part of the book, I even dedicate a bit of it to her, because if not for that phone call, like, I don't know where I'd be.
But the writing and the thirst for producing, was that something that was always on the back burner for you early on before you even got into construction? Were you a writer? Were you writing? Did you write a lot in school?
I did. I wrote stuff in school, and I'd had a couple things published in local newspapers and things like that, but nothing to speak of. And it wasn't. I mean, somebody else
Careers. It wasn't something that was you were thinking as a career, huh?
No, not really. I mean, but somebody asked me, did you ever imagine yourself being where you are? And I guess the answer to that is I must have at some point. Or I wouldn't be here, because I'm a firm believer in, you know, you put out into the universe what you want to
The energy, right?
and it comes back in some way. So
So
here I
true.
am, you know. So I must have at some point. I mean, actually, I do remember as a teenager, I remembered that saying to somebody like, I want to get paid for what I have in my head, not what I can do with my hands, but what I have in my mind, you know. And I guess that was close enough for the universe. Oh, okay, well, you should be a writer, you know. But oddly enough, being a producer is so much like being a contractor. It's ridiculous, you know. When I was just in the desert with Joe, actually, because we have this show called Gun Stories, which is a documentary style show about the history of firearms. And we've been doing that show now for like 14 seasons, producing it from the beginning, but I've been writing it for like the last 4 or 5. And you know, you get out in the desert and you got 20 people standing around, and you're like, okay, you do this, you do that, this has to happen this day, you know, it's the same as building a house. To me, that's how I equate it. You just, the more preparation you put into it, the better prepared you are, the better it goes, you know. And I have a wonderful team, a wonderful director, John Carter, and Olivia Olson is one of our other producers, and Josh Hinkle and Billy Rutherford's our editor. And as a team, we all just get together, and it just kind of, it's fun. It makes it happen, you know, and it's always an enjoyable experience.
Which is so cool. That's the best way to have it happen, when it's enjoyable and you're doing work that you love. There's
Exactly.
nothing better. We have some fabulous photos sort of behind the scenes of various people you've come in contact with over the years in and out of the industry. Dan, look at this shot here.
That's the wonderful Meshack Taylor. People
Oh
would probably
yeah,
remember him from Designing Women,
Designing Women on CBS. Yeah.
or he also played famously the character Hollywood in Mannequin.
Oh yes, that's
Um,
right.
so Meshack was a very dear friend of Joe's, had been for decades. They went to the Organic Theater in Chicago together, and Meshack. So Joe and I were talking one day about this. Is a shot backstage at Criminal Minds. So Joe and I had been talking about his character in the show, and I said to him, because he and I both are very involved in veterans issues, and in particular homeless veterans issues. So I said, wouldn't it be interesting if your character goes on a case somewhere, and while he's there, he runs into a homeless man that we find out was actually his sergeant from like Vietnam. And now here your character, you were like this guy's subordinate, and now you're an FBI profiler and he's homeless. What a swap that would be, you know. And so that became the first episode that I worked on for the show. It was called The Fallen, and wrote it with Rick Dunkel, another fabulous writer, and that's how that episode sort of happened. There was another episode that I did not work on, written by Bruce Zimmerman. A couple seasons later, we went back to that same character, Meshack. Now we see him, because at the end of the first episode, Rossi helps him get into a facility and gets him off drinking, and you know, it's kind of a happy ending. The next episode, we check in on him, he's got some troubles, but again, it still kind of ends in a very positive way. Unfortunately, that second episode, towards the end of that, Meshack was experiencing some discomfort in his stomach. And it was after he got done filming that episode that he went to the doctor and found out that he had colon cancer. And he got treatment for a year, but it was too far advanced. He had never gotten a colonoscopy. So everyone, if you're over 50, get a colonoscopy. It's not that big a deal, I swear. And it's the easiest thing to cure when you catch it early. So he never did that. And
I got my first one at age 27.
Yeah,
when I saw an uncle go through it, not a blood relative married into the family, but just seeing what he went through, I said,
yeah,
I volunteer to go.
Yeah,
I'm ounce of prevention.
Third one, because it's such a preventable thing,
It really is. Yeah. Katie Couric's husband passed at 40.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that was that was obviously a very difficult time for everyone, but we knew once Meshack went into hospice, I sort of thought about it and I thought, we should do an episode where the character on the show passes away also. And so I went to Erica Messer, who was the showrunner at the time, actually still is the showrunner, and I said, listen, I have some bad news. Meshack is passing away any day now. I think we should do an episode where we have the character pass away also, and how that will impact Rossi's character, or Joe's character, Rossi. She thought it was a great idea, so we did that episode. I worked on that episode with Bruce Zimmerman. And those 3 episodes, Joe has said to me on more than one occasion, those are his 3 favorite episodes, mostly because of his working with his friend Meshack. Mm-hmm. They were so wonderful together. And what was weird is they had never really done television together before. They had done theater and things like that, and a film or 2, but they had never done television together. And in that first episode, there is a scene where he and Rossi are having an argument. And I'll never forget this because they kind of did it in one take. And when they yelled cut, I looked around, everybody was just like, because it was like watching 2 gladiators fight it out as actors. Do you know what I mean? They were so fabulous in this scene that it was like, wow, these guys know what they're doing,
And you knew that this was a scene that might not be able to be replicated or duplicated ever again.
Yeah, exactly. So so that's what that photo is. That was a wonderful time.
That's a very special. Thanks for sharing that story. Yeah, he gone way too soon. I remember when I heard the news, I couldn't believe it because he was always such a burst of energy and funny and very passionate and enthusiastic person as a whole. So
yeah,
it was a real
fabulous storyteller. God, he had some funny stories. Jeez,
fabulous combination of people here too, huh?
That is me, Joe, Gary Sinise, and Gary's executive chief of staff, Kristen Barter, and she's a wonderful person. She works, Gary has started the Gary Sinise Foundation for veterans.
Yes, he always does the Capitol 4th of July celebration, hosts that. And I think Joe's been on it too with him on PBS.
Memorial Day. Yeah, Memorial Day.
Yeah, Memorial Day. He does the Memorial Day, yes.
Yeah, they've been doing it together 20-some years now.
Which is spectacular. Yeah, that's a great thing they do. Yeah. What was this event?
I think we were in D.C., and I think Joe and Gary were doing publicity for the concert.
Yeah, for it.
Yeah. So I think it was Kristen said, I don't think we have a photo of the 4 of us together. It was like,
together, okay.
Right? So we took a photo.
That's
and
fantastic.
Gary could not be a more awesome dude. I just love that guy.
Look at this shot.
The governor.
Wow.
Yeah. Super nice guy.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
It was a fundraising.
Are you taller than him?
A little bit. I'm 6'2",
wow.
over 6'2", and he's about 6 feet. But yeah, super nice guy. It was a fundraising event that he came to and was very, very cordial. Took pictures with people and talked to people. And,
I'll be back.
Yes, it was very cool.
That is great, huh?
Yeah. Oh, that's my man there, Travis Kelce. Kansas City Chiefs tight end, probably the greatest tight end of all time. And
No Taylor Swift photos yet?
this was before
This is before they even
knew about
knew each
Taylor,
other.
or before he started dating her. I don't know, because this was a year ago. This last March, I think. Joe and I were actually in Mesa, Arizona at Cubs spring training. Joe's a big
Mhm.
Chicago Cubs fan.
That's
We're
right.
at spring training, and he's doing an interview, and I noticed this guy standing there with a Kansas City Royals hat on. So I start chatting with him, and I said, "What do you do?" And he goes, "Oh, I work for the Chiefs." I said, "Oh, wow!" Woo." And they had just won the Super Bowl the January before in Arizona. So I said, "Man, the Chiefs, what a team!" And Kelsey and Mahomes, like, I'm so excited for these guys. Well, Joe finishes the interview. He comes over. I introduced Joe to this guy, and I said, he works for the Chiefs. And Joe says, "Oh my God!" He goes, "This guy's got me. I'm hooked. I'm a Chiefs fan now, and I'm from Chicago. I should be a Bears fan, but it's so exciting to watch these guys." Well, the guy, we didn't know it, but he was there with Travis, and he looks at us and he goes, "Travis Kelsey's here. Do you want to meet him?" Yes. So he took us into the suite so we could meet him. Amazing guy, super nice. I told him, I said, "Hey, can we do one more Super Bowl?" And he goes, "Why stop now, man?" And they won again last year. So I feel like, Trav, come on, one more. We could do it. Three-peat. I like it.
Next time I go in to buy a lottery ticket, I'm bringing you with me.
Well, I'll tell you, the funny thing about that picture is, of course, the moment I get it, I send it to my family that all still live in Kansas City. My sister, my brother, uncles, aunts, nephews, everybody, right? Look who I ran into. Silence. Like, I got nothing back right away. Finally, a few minutes later, I get a text back from my sister, and she goes, "I just want you to know we're all together and we all hate you right now," because they were jealous.
Because they didn't get that shot. That is funny.
Yeah.
Look at this one.
That is Joe and I in Chicago. That's the Chicago River behind us. I think it was a fundraising event that he was at. Somebody just snapped a photo of us.
It's really
standing
cool,
there.
the friendship that you have. And here's an on location shoot.
That's a Criminal Minds shoot. It's Thomas Gibson there. I have no idea when this was. Probably at least maybe around season 10, somewhere in there. I'm guessing. I think
It's
that's
amazing
AJ.
how many years that series was on CBS, huh?
And now it's back on Paramount Plus. It's Criminal Minds Evolution, and it's doing. They just finished. Well, the second season of that is now airing, and then they go into production on a new season next month. So it'll be season 18 for them.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it
Unbelievable.
really is.
You know, another great series that just capped was and wrapped, Blue Bloods was terrific.
Yeah,
That was a really well written, well acted series on CBS. And
yeah.
that whole NCIS franchise,
Hmm.
quite amazing too.
I don't think I must have a photo somewhere, and I just didn't send it to you. But I met Tom Selleck
You
once
did.
because on the show I was telling you about Hollywood Weapons, where we test things. We had a lot of fan requests, things they wanted us to test. So we tested Quigley Down Under. There's a couple of shots he makes with this rifle that seemed far fetched. So part of the show was, when we had the opportunity, we would try to interview somebody, if not the star of the movie or show, somebody connected to it that had some knowledge of what we were trying to test. So we reached out to Tom Selleck, and thankfully for us, he loves that movie so much that he's always willing to talk about it. So we went to his house and interviewed him about that, and he had donated that rifle to a firearms museum in Columbia, Missouri. It's in a Bass Pro Shop there, I think. But before we came, he called them and asked them to send the rifle back to him temporarily so he could show it to us in person. Like, now, that's the nicest guy in the world, right? Like, who does that? And then he said, "Do you guys want to use it for the test?" We're like, "No, no, no. We have a replica. We don't want to use the real one.
We
It's
don't
okay. Thank you. We appreciate it."
appreciate the kindness and the gesture.
But a super, super nice man.
Wow.
That's Bruce Zimmerman. That's the man that I worked on the last Meshack episode with. who I think now is retired. I think when the show
No,
ended
retired
a
since.
couple of years ago, he retired and moved to Montana or some beautiful
What
place.
if he's any relation to Stan Zimmerman? Stan was a guest on our show a couple weeks ago and wrote for with the Golden Girls and all those other shows.
Maybe. That's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh,
Jerry Lewis.
that
Hey,
was a,
lady.
that was a dream come true meeting Jerry. I was such a fan of Jerry Lewis growing up. And it all just kind of happened by a circumstance.
He didn't do the typewriter routine for you since
No,
you're
but
a
I'll tell
writer,
you
did
something
he?
he did do that was almost as outrageous. Quick story. I had gone, Joe was supposed to accept something at an award. Like it wasn't a big thing, but it was like a charity thing, and they wanted to just give him like a little award. He ended up not being able to go because he had to work. So he said, "Would you go and accept it for me?" And I said, "Sure." So I go, and I'm sitting at this table, and the guy next to me, his name is Chris Lewis. And I just made a joke. I said, "Any relation to Jerry?" And he said, "He's my father." I was like, "What?" So Chris and I became friends, and Chris has this wonderful charity where he donates like cargo container loads full of wheelchairs to third world countries, and it's fabulous work he does. So we sort of connected on that and became friends. And one day he calls me and he said, "Hey, I'm in town. I'm gonna have lunch with my dad. Do you and Joe want to go with us? Have lunch with Jerry Lewis?" "Yeah, I think I would. I think I'd like to do that, you know." So we went and we had lunch with Jerry, and he was fabulous. He was funny. He was entertaining. I'll tell you this real quick. He's kind of a goofball, or was kind of a goofball, and he had the little squares of butter that they serve in restaurants,
With the
and he
little
was
peel off
talking.
tops. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So now he's talking about all the goofy stuff that he's done, and he takes that thing of butter and he peels off the top layer, the clear part, right? And he lays it down, and then he takes his napkin and he kind of folds it. And now I look at Chris, and Chris is going, "Dad, don't do it. Please don't do it." And he's like, "Why not, lady? It'll be fun, you know."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Well, don't do what? Whatever he's doing, do it. I want to see what he wants to do." He folded the napkin up, he put the pat of butter on it, and then he snapped it, and the butter shot up and stuck to the ceiling of the restaurant. And Joe and I looked at each other like, "Did he just do, And Chris is like, "Dad, please, what?" And so
He's
we're
seen it 100
laughing,
times before, probably. Yeah.
and he
At the
had, and
dinner table.
I said, Chris said he does this all the time, and I said, "Have you ever gotten in trouble?" And Jerry said, "Yeah, once." And I said, "What happened?" He goes, "Well, I was in Paris and I did it." And the chef came out of the kitchen with a stepladder, a bucket, and a rag, and put it there and said, "Clean it off." And I said, "What did you do?" He goes, "I cleaned it off." But that was like a bucket list.
Huge in France, Jerry Lewis, too,
Yes,
huh? He had
yes.
quite a following like David Hasselhoff, I think, in Germany, right? Hasselhoff
Yeah,
was Germany
true.
was huge. It's
Yeah.
another great shot. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Is that
Sebastian Bach,
Sebastian Maniscalco, huh?
yeah.
What a funny comedian he is.
A friend of ours, Joe and I have this friend named Chris Amoruso, who's a photographer, and he was taking pictures of Sebastian, and he called us and said, "Hey, Sebastian Maniscalco's here. Why don't you guys drop in, quote unquote?" So we dropped in, and super nice guy. I think he's hilarious. I've seen him
Yeah.
live a couple of times.
Yeah.
Very funny guy.
I love when he talks about how years ago, when somebody would knock on the door, everybody would be very excited to
Yes,
run to the door to answer it
right.
and welcome them into the house. Now, the kids would be in their pajamas and they would slide to the door and everybody would get up off the couch. Now, when somebody knocks on the door, they're like,
What do you want?
dim the lights, hide behind the couch. Who the hell is that? Shh, don't make a sound. Or when
Right.
the phone rings, people would, because there'd be the one phone maybe in the kitchen on the wall, maybe another one in the den or the master bedroom where the parents were or whatever it may be. But there were limited phones, not one every person
Right. Sure.
has like now. And the phone would ring. The phone would ring and everybody would want to get up and almost fight over the phone thinking
Yeah.
it's for them. It's for them.
It was exciting.
Now the phone rings and people are like, who the hell is calling me
Why
now?
would you call me? Why don't you just send me a text? What gets me now, Jim, is the people
It's so
that
true.
they don't even text anymore. They hit a button and they record their voice saying something, and then they send that so that somebody else can hear him say it, but actually not talk to them. Like, we're going backwards. I don't know. I'm all for going back to flip phones.
A colleague of mine in television, a producer that I work with, he asked a couple of questions that he needed answered for something, for a television shoot or one of the radio shows we do daily. And so I tend to, if I have to text back, my texts and my voicemails, it would be a little bit longer because of being so busy with everything. I want to give them as much information and preemptively answer any questions they may have, give them everything they need so they can go about their business and do whatever they have to do.
Yeah.
And hopefully I've dotted all the T's, crossed all the I's, and they have everything they need. So I did that one time. It was very funny. I wrote it all out, text, and this, and then she's going to call then, and this is going to have. And my response after writing the Gettysburg Address in text form, his response to me was the letter K. That's it, K. And I said, wait a minute, I can't even get the O.
Can't even do the O.
K. I can't get okay.
No,
I just got the K.
No. Or on your, you get a text from somebody on your birthday, HB, like, oh, okay, really means a lot.
HB, what'd you just call me?
Yeah, right.
That is funny.
And if you call anybody, if you text, you could be texting with somebody under 25, and they'll text you right back. But if you call them instantly, they don't answer.
There will be no answer whatsoever. Exactly. Cool shot here.
Oh yeah, we were on a pirate ship. I think it was. I want to say it was off the coast of San Diego. So this is that show, Hollywood Weapons. We were testing pirate movies. In particular, one of our big tests was, if you shoot the mast of a ship with a cannonball, does it really like snap and break like it does in the movies? That was one of the tests. So part of the fun of this show was that we did a little, play, I guess, a little skit before we actually got into the testing. The guy on the left in the pirate hat is Terry Shapert, who is a former Green Beret, 23-year veteran of the Army. And then the man on the right is Pompeo Cepeda, who is his sidekick. And as you can see, it's a lot of fun and funny and goofiness. And
Was that in the Pacific? That the Pacific Ocean?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, cool. It's another, and the ship too. It looks. Is that?
It was pretty cool. It was a big old
historic. Yeah, huh?
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Here's another. You were talking about.
That's that's the show I created with Tim Crumman. So that's all of those obviously are Terry in the background, and each a different, each one is from a different episode. So, you can see the Shadow on the far right there with the red cape, and then James Bond next to him. And then we did an episode on 70s cop shows, and then we did some Breaking Bad, which you can see that with Terry.
Oh yeah.
And then Chips over my shoulder, and then the pirate thing, and yeah, we did a lot of really fun stuff on that show.
Very cool. Yeah, look at this.
That was so amazing to get a Batmobile and get these two guys dressed up like Batman and Robin and have some fun. That was our last the last season we did, season 6.
So were these just people that took the costumes over and looked like them?
This is Terry and Pompeo.
It is.
The
Wow.
two guys from the show.
Yeah.
And that was
Burt Ward was just on a couple weeks ago, the original Robin.
Yeah.
He talked about what it was like being on that series, the television series, and how there were quite a few dangerous moments for him where, he almost fell out of the car, or going down cliffs, and some of the things they want, going up ladders, scaling buildings, the things that they wanted to have done. And he was young and all new at it. But he did it all. But how, and that Adam West was quite a tease to everybody on set. Made everybody laugh, said quirky things to throw them off just before the cameras would start rolling.
Yeah. I'll tell you,
behind the scenes.
I drove that car.
Did you?
and it drives very smoothly, but it's got very limited visibility. It's not easy to get in and out of. The doors are kind of heavy. I'm sure they had a lot of challenges with that car,
Yeah. Oh,
but we
yeah.
did have a lot of fun on that episode. So there I am behind the steering wheel.
That thing's probably got a huge 400 engine or whatever.
Yeah, it's a big old
Just
Lincoln something, or Futurama, I think is what
right. You just step on the gas, and in 5 minutes you're in New Jersey.
Yeah, and I made sure I had a Batman T-shirt for that.
Oh yeah, of course.
You got to represent.
Look at this.
Okay, so our second episode of this show we ever did, we tested Jaws. We tested if you put a scuba tank in the mouth of a shark and you hit it, you shoot it with that rifle, the M1 Garand, will it explode? It did not explode, but we had the shark, we had the tank, and later in the episode, I think we packed it full of explosives and blew it up anyway, just for fun.
Speaking of, yeah.
This was, we were testing Indiana Jones. There's a scene in Indiana Jones where a tank shoots a vehicle that's like up on its end, and then the vehicle is pushed, several feet. So we went down to a place in Texas called Drive Tanks in Uvalde, Texas. They have a functional Sherman tank, and we shot a projectile right through that car, and the car didn't even move. It went right through it.
It's amazing how the one car is leaning up on the other car. Is the one car actually holding it, or is there something else that's keeping the car upright?
It is. We all kind of thought the same thing. Like, hurry, shoot that thing before it falls on its own.
Falls over, right?
But there was a very gifted fork truck driver there who propped that car up like that, and we all just kind of held our breath thinking it was going to topple over any second, but it didn't. Even when it got hit with the projectile, it just went through it. It didn't even knock the car down. It did nothing.
What brand of car is that? Because I think everybody's going to want one if it can withstand all of this. You'll sell a lot of those cars if you get them to be a sponsor.
Yeah, tank proof. Right?
I was going to say, that makes me think, has any of your construction understanding and background come in handy with some of these shows and on sets? You've been able to maybe offer up some advice or say, maybe it'd be easier if it's built this way or we do this. Have you been able to use some of that in this industry?
I have, in particular on that show, because when you try to replicate a test of something, we always tried to replicate it as close to the scene as possible. So when Terry shot the scuba tank, he didn't just shoot the tank. He was actually leaning on a big timber, like Roy Scheider was leaning on the ship as it was sinking. And we also had like just the head of the shark. And what we did with that is we put the tank in that, and then we put that on a remote control vehicle and had it coming at Terry while he was trying to shoot. So it was as close as we could get to the actual scene of the shark coming at Roy Scheider and him shooting the tank and it exploding. So there was one season we were testing some the movie Army of Darkness. I don't know if you're a fan of that, but
sure.
With Bruce Campbell. So we needed a trebuchet, and everybody was like, which was like a big sort of catapult thing. Nobody knew how to build one. I didn't know how to build one, but I looked up online. I found some schematics and I built one, and it worked. And everybody was so impressed. I said, well, I did used to be a contractor. I do know how to build stuff and follow blueprints. So I guess, in a way, I would say whatever skill you have that you think isn't necessarily valuable, you'd be surprised.
That's right. You never know when it comes into play and can be used. Look at this.
Oh my gosh. So in Ticonderoga, New York.
Oh yeah, Ticonderoga.
A amazing museum. It's called, hope I get this right, the original Star Trek set museum. Licensed by CBS. This man got the rights from CBS to end the original blueprints and rebuilt the entire original Star Trek ship Enterprise.
That's
not
incredible.
Just the bridge, but the transporter room, sick bay, Captain Kirk's office,
Was he a super fan?
conference room. Yeah, pretty much.
Wow. Yeah.
And now it's grown. This was like, oh, maybe 8 years ago. Now
Hmm.
it's expanded. Like he's got original costumes. It's really, it's, if you're a Trekkie, this
Yeah.
is your
This is your
Graceland.
place.
You got to go. And it's in Ticonderoga, New York, and um,
That is
it was pretty
amazing.
fabulous to film there.
That's incredible. Cool shot here.
Yeah, that's sort of our crew. That's me in the back. On my right is Tim Kremen, the guy who created the show with me, and also executive at Outdoor Channel. Next to him is our director, John Carter. Andre Ellingson, who's a special effects master, who I met on. He's the special effects guy in Criminal Minds, and sort of has been from the beginning, as far as I remember. I borrowed him. I said, "Come do my show when you're not working on that show," and so he helped us do a few pretty incredible things that we weren't capable of doing on our own. And then the other guys in that shot is obviously Terry Shepard, who was our host in the black turtleneck there, and the next to him is Larry Zanoff, who's his co-host. And Larry is probably the Hollywood's leading armorer on,
Mm.
on television and movies. You name it, he was probably on it as the armorer, and he just is extremely intelligent, extremely knowledgeable about firearms, extremely safety. You know, when the whole Rust thing happened, like that would have never happened if Larry Zanoff was on set. Never. Larry is the best when it comes to set safety. We never had one injury on our show the whole time we did it.
Which is absolutely stellar for people to hear as well. Here's another cool shot of you guys.
Just golfing, smoking cigars, and goofing off, I think.
I mean, talk about this chance meeting. I mean, and what had
Yeah,
happened meeting Joe Mantegna.
yeah,
Just, it's really amazing. It's a
yeah.
great shot here.
Yeah, that's the
Like
cast.
a reunion type thing, or
It was during filming. That's the BAU that we're standing in. But this is older. This is a few years ago because Thomas is no longer on the show. Shamar left to do SWAT.
right?
Matthew is no longer on the show, so the cast has changed a bit. But yeah,
Yeah,
that was a few years ago.
it's a great shot. So is this one too.
Oh yeah, somehow I don't even remember how this happened, but we got invited to be on Hell's Kitchen.
Gordon Ramsay. Yeah.
Yeah, so we met. We went. That's Chris Rich on the left from Reba. He was in Reba.
Oh yeah.
And then next to him is Adam Rodriguez, who's on Criminal Minds, and of course the chef, Joe, and I. And they said, "Hey, you guys, you guys want to sit and go sit in one of the booths on Hell's Kitchen?" Like, yeah, well, that sounds cool. So we went and did that, and Chef Ramsay could not be a nicer human being when he's not on camera. I was very surprised.
You didn't have to cook for him, right?
No, I wouldn't want to, but he's super super nice guy. It's all for show, I think.
Yeah, it's for the whole, the build up. Absolutely. It's a good on location shot. Where was this?
That was actually in the Burbank Mall. That was Joe's very first episode of Criminal Minds that he
The
did.
very first episode. Wow.
Yeah. So that would have been like, maybe like 2008, 7, somewhere in there.
When did you get involved with the series?
Well, I was already working for him. He had done First Monday didn't last very long, unfortunately. I think 9/11 was on everybody's mind, and everybody was really just watching the news instead of First Monday or anything else, really. And First Monday was a drama about the Supreme Court and the judges on the Supreme Court, which I think now would be a much more well received show now.
Received. Yeah.
So topical. But it didn't last. We did like half a season, and that was it. And then I thought maybe he would say, "Well, it didn't work out, so we're done." But he didn't. He said, "Why don't you stick around? I got a feeling I'll get something else." And he did. He got a show called Joan of Arcadia that was also on CBS with Mary Steenburgen and Amber Tamblyn, and that lasted 2 seasons. And then after that, he did a couple of films, I think, in the meantime. And then Criminal Minds came calling. Mandy Patinkin had left the show, and everybody was, they needed a replacement. And oddly enough, a lot of the crew on the earlier version of Criminal Minds was the same crew that had worked on Joan of Arcadia. So the crew was telling the showrunner, Ed Bernero, at the time, like, you should call Joe. He'd be great. And they did. And it happened real fast. Like, he got called on like a Thursday, and on like Tuesday, he was working. That was probably the first day that he
Wow,
was working.
that's incredible. I
Yeah.
mean, and even to have that photo and that memory captured like that is
Yeah.
that is so classic. Another great shot here.
Yeah, I can't remember. We were in Vegas. He was presenting something, like they were doing the Country Music Awards. I don't know, something like that. And Joe was presenting, so we were backstage, and Tim McGraw is there, and so I started talking to him. I said, "Oh, let's get a photo," and Joe thought it'd be funny to photobomb us in the back.
It's there. One-eyed bandit.
Yeah, yeah,
This looks very important.
yeah. This was the episode where we bury Meshack's character, and that
Mm.
is the Veteran Cemetery here in Los Angeles. And the two generals there are actually three-star Marine Corps generals. They're retired now, and I think they were even retired when we took this photo. But we had met them and become friends with them through the Memorial Day concert. And when we were going to shoot this scene, Joe said we should bring the generals in. It'd be cool. And I said, yeah. And they were up for it, so they came, put on their dress blues, and participated in that episode. So it was very special.
That had to be. Probably took a day or two to recover from that, huh? Knowing the reality of it all, too.
Yeah, yeah, it was emotional. There's a moment where Joe's character he pins a purple heart on the casket of his friend, who in his mind is Meshach. It was very emotional for him. I know.
I think it's a beautiful thing when series, especially ongoing series, even like the soap operas, the daytime dramas over the years, when a major character passes away, how they write it in. If it's been somebody that has been a part of the show since
Mhm.
its inception or has had a, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30-year run,
Yeah,
sometimes it's kind of hard to just come up with a new guy or woman to replace them and get the audience to take to them. I mean, they seem to be able to do it with Dick York and Dick Sargent on Bewitched, but they still liked Dick York too.
yeah,
But sometimes on the soap operas, they would have a character that was beloved, and they would incorporate the storyline. If the person, the actor, actress died in real life, they would actually have them pass away
yeah.
on the show because the whole world has heard about the
Of
passing of
course.
the actor. I always thought there was a beautiful thing how they would tenderly treat that because the viewers feel like they get a chance to say goodbye to this beloved person they've seen on the screen that's become
Yeah,
a part of their life. Gives
yeah.
them an opportunity to feel the loss.
I think you have to acknowledge it, especially if it's a beloved character. The whole Bewitched thing, they sort of swapped out Darren's without really making a comment about it. It was just all of a sudden it was a
The next
different
season,
guy.
and now it's a taller guy.
Yeah, and but when somebody like that passes, and as I recall, they even dedicated the episode to Meshach at the end. It says in memory of him. But yeah, I think that's important for fans to feel like they're part of that experience. Part of that mourning.
It's a beautiful thing to be able to do it. Exactly. You are you going through scripting here?
No, actually, I had a list of things for him. This was so he had some friends visit. I think it might have been even a relative. This was his trailer, and they were sitting on the couch, and I was going over, like, I don't know, his schedule or something.
Yeah.
And this lady, she said, "Do you mind if I take you guys' photo?" And we said no, but I didn't think she was going to take.
Well, she
I thought she
actually
wanted
did.
us to pose. So it's kind of an odd photo. The toilet seat's up and the back, it's like, what, I don't know, but it's real life. So
It's raw and it's real.
exactly.
That's what
And I think Joe's laughing because he realizes that she's taking the photo
the
of
toilet
that.
seats up.
Yeah.
Toilet seats being left up have resulted in a few divorces over the years, I heard.
Oh, my wife I'm sure if she's watching, she's very upset that photo is even being shown. She hates
That's it. It's this. Just like,
it.
come on. Not in
anytime she
my
goes through
house.
a real estate listing, she'll be like, "They couldn't close the toilet seat? Like, come on, you know?"
And they want to show the house and
Yeah,
get every dollar
I'm
for
kinda
that
with her on
house.
that, I get it.
Yeah, that is funny. It's a great shot here. Nice, fun
Yeah,
moment.
we were at the Peninsula Hotel. The man you can't see in the gray suit behind us is a guy named Keith Park, who owns Prometheus, which is a company that makes
Oh yeah.
lighters and cigars. They make Got a Fire cigars, Angelino cigars, really nice cigars. And so this was a cigar dinner fundraiser for a children's charity. And the dinner was over, and now we're just sitting around, and I think I was telling a story
Yeah.
that Joe had done something, and that's why he's
And he's
laughing.
laughing, and
It's
it
a good
really
time.
is great to have this relationship, and again, be partners in the business and assisting him, and you
Yeah,
guys working together and creating in the way that you do. And again, like you said, a chance meeting with Joe Mantegna has led to all of this with him and other work that you've done, over the years, including the novel.
yeah.
Telling us about the novel, which is quite riveting too. Some
Well, thank
secrets
you.
aren't buried deep enough, right? Mason
Correct.
Powell had a long run on a successful network TV series,
Yes.
something few actors get to enjoy, but this star has fallen. He has landed on hard times, typecasting, COVID, and unscrupulous accountants. Boy, it sounds like Hollywood,
Yeah, it does,
have
right.
turned his Hollywood dream life into a nightmare. Armed with what he believes is a true, surefire plan to get himself back on top, Mason returns to his small hometown of Long Branch, Georgia, to give his late mother's home some curb appeal and get it on the market. However, Mason's past comes back to haunt him, and the hope he hinged his future on seems to be unraveling before him. And relying on the memories and help of a few old high school friends, Mason works to resolve a 30-year-old mystery. In the meantime, his career is getting some unexpected new life, but he can't leave Long Branch with a clear conscience as long as some potentially life altering questions go unanswered. Mason's life is threatened after he stumbles into a multi layered conspiracy involving influential people who will stop at nothing to keep the past buried. My
Correct.
question is,
Yes, sir.
how much of you is in this?
How much of me? Well, it's funny you say that. So Mason Powell is sort of a combination of a lot of actor friends I know. You mentioned Bob Denver before. He's one of those victims of typecasting. I mean, Bob, who could think of anything but Gilligan every time you saw Bob Denver? And that happens a lot, unfortunately, in this business. And Mason Powell is a guy, like you said, who had a very successful show, but is so identified with that character that he can't seem to get anything else going. And then, through no fault of his own, he finds himself in a very dire financial situation. So he devises a plan to go back to his hometown of Long Branch, which he moved away from when he was 19 and had not been back much since. He has a plan to make a lot of money quickly, get back to LA, and sort of try to get his life on track again. But once he's there, he sort of gets mixed up in this mystery slash potentially crime, unsolved crime, or thought we solved it crime, whatever it is, that is 30 years old. And not only is it 30 years old, but he himself may have played a part in that unknowingly. So that's what really starts to pull him in is, like, oh my God, I was part of that. Like, I was there. I remember this. I remember that. Like, wait a second. And so it just begins to unravel for him from that point forward. I'm very proud of it. I've had a lot of people. The reaction has been great. I've had a lot of people tell me that they never saw the ending coming. They could never figure out. When this one guy called me up, who I know, his name is Bob. He said, it's not like a dear friend. He doesn't have to blow smoke up my keister for any reason, but he calls me up and he says, I loved your book so much. And he goes, and I love reading mystery novels. And what I like to do is, as I'm reading the book, I take a piece of paper and I write down what I think is really happening and date it. He goes, I tore up 4 pieces of paper reading your book and I never got it right. I said, well, good. That's the idea. So people are always fooled by what's happening. And also, I've heard repeatedly it's a good summer read. It's a good easy read. It's not something that you gotta work too hard at to read. I tried to make every chapter end in such a way that you're just like, all right, I got to see what happens next. Almost like
Okay.
binge watching a TV show.
Keep going. Right.
I just want to know what happens.
How long
So
did it take you to write it from the germ of the idea to completion? How long was that
about a
process?
year and a half.
A year and a half.
Like I was saying earlier, like I started working on it in 22, and I didn't tell anyone. I told my wife. I didn't tell Joe. I didn't tell anybody. And when it was done, I had a few friends read it. Everybody liked it very much. So I thought, all right, I'm going to show it to Joe, the litmus test. And I had made the mistake of when I had it printed, I accidentally had it printed only on one side of the paper. So it was twice as thick as it needed to be, right? So I'm handing him like War and Peace, like here. And he looked at me and he goes, "What is that?" And I said, I wrote a novel." "You wrote a novel? When did you write a novel?" I said, "Over the last year and a half, So I said, "Just whenever you get time, Well, he read it and then fell in love with it and said, "This is something you got to publish." Had a couple of ideas which I automatically implemented because I thought they were good points to fix. Then I hired an editor, a woman named Cara Highsmith, who's really wonderful, very experienced professional editor who helped me format-wise, mostly format my little typos here and there. Very different from screenwriting, novel writing. It's a whole different world. And she liked it very much and introduced me to an agent who wanted to go to publishers. But I found that with publishers, it could be 2, maybe 3 years before they actually release the book. And I don't have that kind of patience. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to release it myself. And, I'm not trying to get rich off of it. I just wanted to do it again, see if I could do it kind of thing, and it's been so well received. I'm already started on the second book in the series now.
You have, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. So it's going to be a series, you think?
I'm a big fan of Robert Parker and Spencer
yeah.
novels and those sort of ongoing stories of those characters, and Ian Fleming with James Bond. I like that serialized sort of thing. I guess that's the television side of me. So I'd like to do more, certainly more books, in this series if people keep wanting them.
Would you like to take this to the visual as well? The
You know,
series?
it's funny. If somebody, it started out as I wanted to make it a TV show. So then that got rejected.
Right.
So we made it a novel. If somebody comes to me and says, "This would make a great TV show," you know what I'm going to say, Jim? I'm going to say, "I wish I would have thought of that. That's a great idea. Let's do it."
That's a great idea. You're a genius, investor.
Great idea. Exactly.
Sometimes, it's there, and they see it taking off, and it's been, like you say, well received by people, right?
Oh yeah, lots of great reviews. I had another person I know. They texted me and they said, "Damn you! I stayed up way too late because I had to finish it. I had to know what was happening."
It's a page turner.
Yeah.
What inspired you to write it?
I had read an article in the LA Times years ago about something that happened, and there was this big question about it. It's hard to tell, because it's a mystery. I don't want to give anything away.
You might give it
But
away.
I can just say it's inspired by a story I read in the LA Times a few years ago, and I always thought, like, that's a great story. That's an interesting twist on something. And so I changed a lot of it because it's not really the same story anymore, but it's certainly inspired by that. And also back to your original question, and so Mason, who is a combination of a lot of actor friends I know, and he's also a bit of me. He overthinks things a little bit too much, like I do. He's a little impatient, like I am sometimes. And they say, write what you know. So every time I wondered, like, what should Mason do? I think, well, what would I do? And that's what I would write.
That is so cool. And it's available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and all the usual places where books are available, right?
Yep, print and Kindle, and
Kindle.
Soon, I think it'll be an audio book too.
With actors and actresses coming in to do the voices, or will you be doing voices?
No, it won't be me. It'll just be one narrator.
One narrator doing it.
Yeah.
Joe, You,
We'll see.
you never know, right?
Keep checking
Stay
Amazon.
tuned, folks.
You never know.
I was going to say the mystery unfolds. You have to stay tuned.
Yes.
Join us again next week when
Yeah,
remember
right.
they used to do for part 2 of All in the
Same-
Family.
Same
Will
bat
Edith do
channel,
this?
Same bat channel.
Same bad times to bad channel. What are some other things? And congratulations again on the book. What are some other things you have coming up you're looking forward to and you're excited about, Dan?
Well, we're always pitching and selling and trying to create new ideas, new shows and things like that. So we're always working on that kind of stuff. We just wrapped up, as I said, season 14 of Gun Stories. It's being edited right now, but now we're pretty soon going to start thinking about season 15, which I'll probably start writing in November, December, somewhere in there. Criminal Minds kicks back up into production next month, so that'll be a big part of Joe's life for 4 or 5 months there. And just, and living life, enjoying life, being grateful for everything wonderful that has happened, and hopefully more things will work out the way I want them to. And, it's somebody asked me, what's the biggest difference between what you used to do and what you do now? I don't sweat as much.
Yeah.
I like that. I like not sweating.
Literally, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Any desire to be in front of the camera?
No, I really admire actors so much. It always cracks me up when somebody, they win the Olympic medal or something and say, what do you want to do next? So I want to be an actor. Like all of a sudden, somehow that translates. But acting is really hard. I mean, I've watched some of the best in the business do it. And it is a skill. It is something you cannot take lightly, and you learn over a period of years of practice and theater. And so, no, Joe has stuck me in a couple of episodes as like a background person. And there was one episode in particular that was supposed to take place in Kansas City. So everybody thought it would be funny if I was one of the cops in this scene when they're delivering the profile. Well, you're from Kansas City. You got to be in the episode. Okay. So I'm sitting there. I'm dressed up like a cop, and I'm sitting, like a plainclothes cop. And I'm sitting there next to the guest actor. And the showrunner who was directing the episode at the time, he said, I got to give you a line. And I said, no, I'm not saying a line. This is all you get from me, So no, I have no desire for acting. I'm not even sure I ever really want to direct, frankly. I'm sure, I think I could, but it's not something that I pine for. I'd probably do it once to say like, oh, stepped out of my box again and did something I'm unknowingly, that I didn't know I could do. But I'm pretty happy writing and producing. I really like that creative process, and working with other directors and stuff that I've written. It's a fun process. I like it a lot.
And then there's our mutual dear friend, Chris Corman, son of Harvey Corman from the Carol Burnett Show and Blazing Saddles and so much more. Mm-hmm. How did you connect with Chris?
Chris and Joe have known each other for a long time. I'm not exactly sure how they know each other. I think he knows also Tim Conway Jr. too. But Chris was in my sort of digital Rolodex, and when I was emailing everybody about the book being available, I guess I sent it to him too, and he wrote me back and he said, I want to help you. I want to help you promote this book. And I was like, oh, wow,
kind-hearted guy, isn't he?
Super nice man.
Really? Yeah.
So I'm halfway through his book too, about growing up as Harvey's son. It's pretty
Harvey
interesting.
Corman's son, right? Yeah. He's a dear friend, and he's been a guest on the show several times, and has sent a number of friends our way as well. And he really is a terrific guy. So you're loving this, and there might be more. Long Branch, a novel. Again, as you're hearing, it's a page turner, folks, and we've got a very interactive audience. They're probably already ordering it online. They jump at things when they see it presented here on the show.
Yeah.
So Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Kindle form, everywhere else. And
there's another one, Kobo. I guess a lot of people.
There's another one, right?
Kobo for digital. It's available there too.
Thanks for sharing this story about, this wonderful chance meeting with Joe Mantegna, this brilliant actor, and how all of these wonderful things came your way, and this career that you've carved out yourself as well is quite unique. And these industries demand a lot of time and patience and
Yeah.
tenacity, blood, sweat,
Yeah.
and tears, and flexibility and creativity. What do you do to balance all that out? What do you do to shut all that off, live you, and then be refreshed and rebooted to plug back into that instant creation world?
Well, a few things. I mean, my wife and I, Liz, we love to travel. We were just in Mexico City and a town called Puebla, Mexico, recently, like a couple of weeks ago. Last December, we were in London and Paris for Christmas and New Year's. We like to see the world. We like to travel around, even if it's just drive out to Palm Springs for a weekend. That's probably the funnest thing that we do, is just find some place to go and just be there. When I'm at home, I like to, football season is very important. I'm a big Chiefs fan, so I watch the Chiefs every time they're on. Um, Play a little golf once in a while, smoke a cigar once in a while. Just it doesn't take me a lot to wind down, honestly.
Right. You don't demand a
I
lot of,
don't.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do get super hyper focused on something when I'm about ready to go into production. Sometimes on Hollywood Weapons, the last season we were in Arizona at this one location for 3 weeks straight. And, once you get there, you're there. And so there was a few nights right before I left where I was up late thinking like, did I remember to do that? Did I pack that? Did I put that, all of those things. Because when you're the producer, it's not just you're responsible for the props and the makeup people, making sure they got what they need and the costumes and all that stuff. So, but in between those times, it doesn't take a lot for me to sort of chill out.
Well, it's been a real pleasure getting a chance to hear your story and share it here on the Jim Master Show Live series, Dan, and really appreciate all the time and telling us about not only the book, but some of the other incredible things in this industry that we are in. And as I always say to everybody, we're going to keep that porch light on for you. You're welcome back anytime. And if you know other folks that you think would enjoy stopping by the show, whether it's for an hour or 20 minutes, however long they got, they're all welcome to join. And next time you're having coffee with Mr. Mantegna, he's welcome to join us as well if he ever has a free minute. And
I'll tell him.
of course, we say a big thanks to our beautiful friend Chris Corman, who's a big fan of our show as well. We love Chris, and I really appreciate it. Congratulations on the book, and I hope you'll come see us again. And I really hope you enjoyed the time with me as much as I have with you. This was a great, not interview, but as I say, conversation.
It was, Jim. The only thing we're missing is like a glass of wine here.
Well, what do you have in that big cup?
Yeah, that's water, unfortunately.
Oh, that's just water.
Maybe later.
That's the chaser.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let you go so you can dust off the paraphernalia behind you. And it was really cool having you here, Dan. And truly, I hope you enjoyed the time as much as I have with you.
I did, Jim. I had a great time with you.
Spread the word. As my father, you mentioned some sage advice. I think you said it was your dad that told you. One of the things my dad has said when I was a kid that stuck with me, and I've mentioned it a couple of times on this series, but I've been mentioning it for years before. Whenever anybody, he said to me when I was 7, Jimmy, because I'm like the 5th James. So as a kid, Jimmy,
right.
Jimmy, always remember whenever anybody says something kind or nice to you, be sure and always thank them for those kind and nice words that they took the time to share with you.
Yeah.
Then ask them to please put those words in writing and address it management.
I like it.
7 years old, he told me that.
That's
and
perfect.
It is true. It holds true today.
Yeah, I love it.
All right, Danny, you be well. Thanks for all the time. Have some dinner. Have you had some dinner yet?
No, I'm going to head home, and I'm sure my wife has got something going. So,
Are you in your office? Is that the office?
I am, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, come see us again. Spread the word about our show, and we'll see you again soon, my friend. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Danny. Bye-bye now. Danny Ramm joining us here on the show, Emmy-nominated television writer, producer, author extraordinaire, author of that new book, Long Branch. Told you a lot about it. We didn't want to give it all away because we'd love for you to go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other places to get it. There it is. It really is a page-turner. And great stories about working on Criminal Minds with Joe Mantegna and everybody involved with that series all these years on CBS, now Paramount Plus, and the episodes that he's had an opportunity to write for that series. The wonderful chance meeting with Joe Mantegna, this beloved, extraordinary actor, and then a friendship developing and a trust between the two and a real bond, almost like a brotherly bond. And now they are partners in business together as well, creating and having a ball, doing it all, and all the other shows and series and much, much more that he's had an opportunity to be involved in. This was fantastic. Thanks for all the great comments coming in Lovely Hall as well, everybody in our chat room. We really appreciate that. Let's show you that book again. Run out to Amazon online, Barnes & Noble, and elsewhere, and pick up a copy. You'll be glad you did. Now you know a little bit about behind the scenes of the making and the writing and putting together of that particular novel, and more to come. It's going to be part of a series, which is exciting as well. We thank our new friend Dan joining us here on the show. And if Chris Corman is watching, he's a big fan of our show as well. We say hello to Chris Corman. Of course, you guys know, dear friend of ours and son of the legendary Harvey Korman from the Carol Burnett Show and Blazing Saddles and so much more. We'll keep the porch light on for Dan, as we do with all of our guests. Hey, just wanted to let you guys know, remind you, and or if you didn't know, some amazing people have been with us in recent days, and actually 1,200 episodes almost of our series. Eric Roberts was with us recently, iconic actor. He doesn't do a lot of interviews and or conversations, so this was very rare, very special. His wife Eliza joined him as well. And Filippo Prandi, the filmmaker for My Last Best Friend, which Eric stars in, was with us as well. Of course, Susie Lanier Bramlett, she, of course, the iconic actress in The Hills Have Eyes. She was on Welcome Back, Kotter and so many series, originally in the pilot of Three's Company with John Ritter. She was with us recently as well. The incomparable Debbie Campbell returned to the Jim Masters Show, beloved friend, daughter of iconic Glenn Campbell. She was with us just a couple of days ago. If you didn't see any of those episodes, again, you can binge watch all the episodes. We've had so many people here, Lucy Arnaz and Melissa Manchester, Keith Thibodeau, who played little Ricky on I Love Lucy, Marion Ross from Happy Days, Patrick McEnroe, John McEnroe, the tennis legends. I mean, just something for everybody here on our Entertainment Lifestyle Celebrity Talk Show series. Tomorrow, an afternoon show for those watching live, 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Pacific. A legendary actress from the NBC sitcom The Facts of Life. She played Cousin Jerry on The Facts of Life. Jerry Jewell is going to be here. She has a fabulous new memoir. Lots of stories about her time on the Facts of Life series with Charlotte Ray and Kim Fields and Mindy Cohn and Nancy McKeon and Lisa Whelchel, and even George Clooney was on that series as well. The Facts of Life on NBC. Jerry Jewell, Cousin Jerry, will be with us tomorrow on the Jim Masters Show Live series. So check that out. Join us. It'll be live. She will be with us live from Los Angeles. It's going to be cool. Lots of great guests here for all of you on JMS, the Jim Masters Show Live series. We're bringing back that lost art of conversation with celebrity friends and guests stopping by and having a good time with us, like you as well. Again, thanks for all these great comments, folks. We really appreciate them all. Taking a look at some of them here. Maureen and Kathleen and Merlin and Sherry and Jane and everybody watching, and all the new folks watching. Thank you for joining us here. A quick reminder, too. A lot of people ask, how can we support the show? How can we help you grow and reach more people around the world? Here's how you can do it. On the YouTube channel, give this episode a thumbs up like. Click the thumbs up icon. That helps this, through the YouTube algorithm, this episode and all the ones you enjoy, reach millions more around the world. We have an international audience that watches us all over the world, but even more will get a chance to see it. Share the YouTube episode link on your social media. Don't keep it a secret. Let folks know about our series. And then also subscribe to our YouTube channel, Gym Masters TV. We thank those of you who have done that. If you're doing that right now, that helps us grow as well. And leave a comment, even if you left one in the JMS Levity Hall chat room. Leave a comment for us right underneath this episode in the comments section. We would love that as well. And thanks to everybody who's been doing that. Thanks for watching, enjoying, subscribing, commenting, liking the Gym Masters Show series on Gym Masters TV. That's the YouTube channel. First time with us, welcome to the Gym Masters Show. We love having you here. Keep the porch light on for you as well. And take a look at a couple of fast comments here. And Merlin watching in Canada. Thanks to Dan for being here and taking the time to have the conversation with us. Thank you, Merlin, in Ontario, Canada. We appreciate that. Maureen watching in Arizona. Fabulous conversation. Dan, thank you so much for sharing your interesting life with us. Come back soon and tell us more. He shall. And Kathleen Walker in New York City, thanks for being here. Dan, great conversation. Good luck with all you do. Sherry, who is right there in the Kansas City area. So she was very excited. She was saying, I think she even said, go Chiefs. Yeah, she's got go Chiefs there. These are some of our regular faithful lovities who never miss an episode of our show, commenting in the chat room there. Thank you, Dan, for being here tonight. So interesting. Can't wait to read your book. Good luck with all you do, and go Chiefs. Cool stuff. All right, gang, you guys are the best. Appreciate you being with us and everybody else commenting. Come see us again. Don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and all the rest. This is your host, Jim Masters, thanking you for your time this time. Till next time. Don't forget, Jerry Jewell from The Facts of Life is with us on our next episode. Don't forget, you can also binge watch all the other hundreds of episodes, all saved and archived for you to enjoy, rewatch, or see for the first time on the YouTube channel, Gym Masters TV. From Levity Hall, this is Jim Masters and the Gym Masters Show. We'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to love one another, take care of one another, and do the very same for yourself. Be well, take care, and cheers.